Hello everyone, welcome to Achievers IAS classes. Let's begin our discussion on the current events of 12th January 2018. The first issue in news is regarding the safety features introduced by the UIDAI to prevent the misuse of Aadhaar. I have already discussed the introduction of virtual ID by the UIDAI, which can only be generated by the Aadhaar card holder, thereby eliminating the need to share and store permanent Aadhaar numbers. Also, I discussed what is the mechanism behind the virtual Aadhaar in yesterday's current affairs analysis. The news article today is talking about the various observations made by experts with regards to the virtual ID introduced by the UIDAI. The experts feel the introduction of virtual ID card is a step in the right direction, but it may be too little and too late because many of the Aadhaar card holders have already shared their permanent Aadhaar card numbers and their details are available in various databases. Also, the use of virtual ID is voluntary, and unless all entities are required to use the virtual IDs mandatorily, the new measures introduced by the UIDAI won't be of much help. With that, let's move on to the next issue in news, which is regarding the Mulla Periyar Dam in Kerala. The issue is in news because recently a petition was filed in the Supreme Court raising concerns over the safety of the dam. The petitioner argued that the dam was constructed using crude engineering techniques and was built for a period of only 50 years but has already survived 122 years, raising fears of disasters associated with burst of the dam. And given the steepy, hilly geographical features of the dam and the thickly populated downstream areas, it could snowball into a huge catastrophe. Keeping this in mind, the Supreme Court has directed the Union government to set up a special committee to exclusively prepare disaster management plans if in case a disaster were to occur at the region. And it has also directed the states of Tamil Nadu and Kerala to set up similar committees. The Supreme Court further clarified that the special committees have nothing to do with the lifespan or safety of the dam, which has already been verified by previous committees, but it is restricted to disaster management plans to contain the loss of life and damage to property of the downstream areas. Given the tension between the states of Tamil Nadu and Kerala over the dam in the past few years and the fears expressed by the people living in the downstream areas, the Supreme Court has taken the right decision under the circumstances. The next issue in news is an editorial regarding the recent steps taken by the Union government to liberalize FDI in various sectors of the economy. I have already discussed in yesterday's news analysis what are the steps done by the government to liberalize foreign investment in various sectors, and I request those who have missed it to go through the same. The editorial today is analyzing particular moves made by the government like the liberalized FDI in civil aviation sector and the relaxations given to domestic procurement. The union government has decided to allow up to 49% of foreign ownership in the government carrier Air India, thereby relaxing the ownership norms for the private players. This is a welcome move given the financial constraints of the union government and in line with the long-term demand to disinvest from the loss-making airline. But what we shouldn't forget is any strategic disinvestment does not necessarily transform to a successful privatization of a sector or an organization, but it depends on the interests of potential investors, which in the case of Air India is the long-haul international routes and the attractive fleet of aircraft owned by the airline. Another reform cleared by the cabinet was the crucial decision to put 100% FDI in single brand retail under the automatic route, accompanied by the relaxation of mandatory local sourcing norms, as was demanded by potential investors like Apple, which had cited the high level of technological advancement in its products, make it difficult in finding local sources of supply. And in this regard, the 5-year holiday given to the 30% local sourcing requirement will give these companies in setting up shop domestically and thereby identify, train, and technologically assist in the creation of local supply chains. There is opposition to the government move to liberalize foreign trade in single brand retail by various groups, and we'll have to wait and watch any future development on the issue in the days to come. Till then, let's move on to the next issue. The next issue in news is regarding the recent provisional attachment of various Benami properties by the Income Tax Department. The Prohibition of Benami Property Transaction Act provides for the provisional attachment and even subsequent confiscation of the Benami properties. The Act also allows for prosecution of the beneficial owner, the Benamidar, as well as the abettor to the Benami transactions, which may result in either imprisonment up to 7 years or a fine of up to 25% of the market value of the property. UPSC in the previous prelims examination had asked about the Benami Property Act, and I request everybody to go through the various salient features under the said act. With that, let's move on to the next issue in news, which is regarding the confirmation given by the Ministry of External Affairs about the meetings between the National Security Advisors of India and Pakistan. And the ministry has said that it is part of a mechanism to hold Pakistan accountable to the cross-border terrorism activities. The ministry has further confirmed that this was a predetermined meeting and has nothing to do with the happenings at the time, like the recent controversy over the arrest of Mr. Kulbhushan Jadhav. Given the various tensions between the two nations, quiet diplomacy is indeed needed for the two nations to engage constructively. With that, let's move on to the next issue in news, which is regarding the recent remarks made by US Ambassador to India, who has said that India is a leading power in the Indo-Pacific and should gear up to become an alternative manufacturing destination to China to attract US businesses to India. This comes in the backdrop of various US companies reporting increasing difficulties conducting business in China, and some companies even downgrading their operations looking for alternative markets. In this regard, India should seize the strategic opportunity through trade and investment to become an alternative hub in the Indo-Pacific region as compared to the slowing China. The ambassador further expressed that India should expand market access and intellectual property rights, which is contentious for both US and India at the World Trade Organization. And with regards to Afghanistan, India and US, along with Japan and Australia, can coordinate their humanitarian assistance as well as cooperate on the connectivity projects in South Asia. Finally, on the recent statements made by Mr. Donald Trump on Pakistan's activity in promoting terrorism in the region, he reaffirmed that Pakistan is an important player in the region and declined to comment on a specific question from the reporters whether groups that target India, like the Lashkar-e-Taiba, would also be targeted by the US. The next issue in news is regarding the visit of Israeli Prime Minister to India, which is expected to give a boost to the bilateral relations between the two nations in various sectors, namely oil and gas, renewable energy, science and tech, etc. This comes in the backdrop of the United Nations General Assembly vote, which took place last month over the recognition of Jerusalem. And as we all know, India has defended, citing the traditional policy of the two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has clarified that India's vote at the United Nations is not an issue and expressed hope that the bilateral ties between the two nations will further get strengthened. With that, let's look into the other issues in news today. The first one being the appointment of a former Delhi High Court judge as a chairman of the Special Investigation Team in connection with the 1984 anti-Sikh riots. I have already discussed the issue in detail and the causes for the anti-Sikh riots in yesterday's news analysis, and I request those who have missed it to go back and watch the same. The final issue in news is regarding the historic decision taken by the Supreme Court Collegium to recommend the name of a senior female advocate for the appointment as a judge of the Supreme Court. This is the first time a woman lawyer has been recommended for the direct elevation from the Bar Council to the Supreme Court. With that, I conclude today's news analysis. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.